You're listening to CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living. To learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures Cast is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phones. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas. Let's go!
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.cfrn.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.cfrn.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of indeterminate length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Tuesday, 23rd day of January, 2018. So glad to have you with us. If you are returning, welcome back. And if you happen to be new, a special CFRN welcome to you. We're in our second decade of broadcast history. Grab your day planner, pencil us in for the next decade. All right. Well, earnings season, Bitcoin, taxes, keeping the government open. There's a whole lot to cover. Netflix, all-time new high. The DAX, all-time new high. So this isn't something that's just happening here in the U.S. It's spreading its tiny wings. All the bears are out on cryptocurrency, and I think all the bulls are out on the equity markets. And you know what that means? Often, when everybody gets on the same side of the boat because one guy caught a fish, well, the boat tips over. So be ye careful out there. Now, normally I'd go into some charts and I would talk about a little of this and a little bit of that. But Michael has planes, trains, and automobiles, so we're going to let him in first to give us a recap of what happened in the live training room today. Then I'll be back with all that stuff I just mentioned. A note, Michael will be out tomorrow. He has business to take care of. And so I will be here. Some of you may want to take the day off. I don't know. I'll be in the live training room. I'll be here for the radio show. But mostly I'll be doing the things I'm qualified to do, like sweep up, clean the toilets, replace the paper towels in a little dispenser in the bathroom. All skills I gained serving our country in the United States Navy. So I'm looking forward to that. Michael, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Dwayne. And you have many more skills than that. Many, many more skills. I don't think you learned them in the Navy, though.
Alrighty. If you're ready, I'll hit mute.
Okay. I am ready. Here we go. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Tuesday, the 23rd day of January, 2018. Today in the live training room, well, first, if you have not taken a free trial with us, go to the home page here at cfrn.net. And right here at the top, this banner is going to drop down. It says click here. When you click there, you'll be brought to this page right here. Okay. On this page, all we ask for is your email, your first name, how you found us. You hit the submit button. Once you do that, you'll be sent a confirmation link, a link that you must click on if you want to take the free trial. Because if you don't, we don't know you took the free trial. Okay? All right. Now, the spreadsheet. As I said, today is the 23rd day of January 2018. If you're going to read the spreadsheet, you read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today we made 20 ticks in the Euro, 12 ticks in the Russell, and 2 ticks in Crude. So we're at 205 on the morning. It took 29 minutes and 1 trade to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we were up $100 per contract. We took a total of 8 trading opportunities. All right. When I go through them, you'll see there were a bunch that we missed, but I'll get into that later. On the month now, on the month and on the year, we're at $2,116. Over 15 days, averaging $141 per day. Gross profit. Okay, that's gross. Now, get into the trades. You see gold is coming off the high of the day right here. Earlier, it had gone down and put in a low right here, right at pretty much the open. And from then, it's been recovering from that. We missed a trade opportunity there. We had a break even there. We missed one there. And that's pretty much it for the gold today. Just looking. We might have had an opportunity right here, but I think I was probably thinking that we weren't trending because we didn't get up above this swing high. So we didn't actually have an opportunity there. And then right in here, the cycle was going down too steep. Okay. The Euro. The Euro's where we had most of our action today. Well, let me scroll all the way back here. Okay. Well, our first opportunity was right here. On this one, we picked up 4 ticks. And on this one, we picked up 12 ticks to put us at plus 16. We missed that follow-up right there. Over here, we grabbed another 4 ticks to get to 20. And then we had a break even right there. During the break, let's see. During the break, there was a little bounce right here. Okay, and that was it. That was it for the Euro today. We're plus 20 on the Euro. Okay, on Crude. It looks like right here, right near the open, there was a long opportunity on the Crude. That would not have worked out. And let's see. Over here, we picked up 2 ticks. And then in here, well, this was going into the high of the day, so I wouldn't have done anything with this. All right, but during the break, there was a shorting opportunity right there off the BBC. and then another one. Well, draw the trend line. Yeah, I'm sorry. We didn't have another one there. We had to break this dynamic support. When it pulled back up, it gave another shorting opportunity right there. Okay, right there. But we ended with just the +2 on the crude today. All right, and the Russell. Let's see. Our first trade of the day was right here on the Russell, and we picked up 20 ticks on that one. Okay, then the Russell got kind of choppy. And we shorted over here and we stopped out. That put us down to +12. And then I didn't highlight this, so the ES must have been going into a zone or something, because it would have been a long trade right there if we weren't paying attention to the other markets. And there was another one there that we missed. And I'm just guessing in here that the ES was going into a zone because I didn't highlight anything. I was drawing the trend lines, but I didn't draw an ellipse. But here during the break, there was a shorting opportunity there. And another one right here. Okay, then we changed directions and we didn't have anything on the long side. Okay, the ES, now I'm going to back this out. Dwayne will give you much more detail, I'm sure, when he gets back in here. But the ES was just on, it was on fire. It opened up, and then just about 10 o'clock, Dwayne will go through this, I'm sure, it tanked. I mean, it just tanked right there. But it didn't give us any trade setups. Okay. And then it changed directions and put in a new high right there. New high of the day. Crazy. Crazy markets. If we blow this up a little bit, it looks like there was a shorting opportunity right there. And another one right there on the ES. And there was the one long opportunity back here this morning. Okay, and that was it for the ES. Now let's go back here. And if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you can read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. But we made 20 ticks on the Euro, 12 ticks on the Russell, 2 ticks on crude. That's $205 gross per contract in 2 hours. Took 29 minutes and 1 trade to get to $100 a contract, and we took a total of 8 trades today. So on the month now, we're up $2,116. That's over 15 days, averaging 141 per day. Okay. Yes, everything is positive. Everything is beautiful. Actually, the Russell is our big gainer this month. That's unusual. But we did have some big days in the Russell. What was it last month? Crude and gold last month. Anyway. On the month and on the year, $2,116 over 15 days, averaging 141 per day. Now, again, if you have not taken a free trial with us, all you have to do is go to the home page here at cfrn.net. Up at the top where it says sign up for the CFRN live training room, 100% free trial, user indicators, learner strategy, click here, click there, and you'll be brought to this page. On this page, all you have to do is put in your email, your first name, and how you found us. Hit the submit button. Once you do that, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on the confirmation link. Okay? If you don't click the confirmation link, you will not get a free trial, because we don't know until you click that link. All right? All right. So with that, I am going to slide this over here, and I will pass it back to Studio A in fabulous Phoenix, Arizona, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Dwayne, if you are ready. Excellent.
Yes, we are.
Thank you, sir.
Alrighty. Alright, buddy. Recap of the recap?
Today it took 29 minutes and 1 trade to get our goal for the day. We got $100 per contract.
29 minutes, 1 trade.
Yes.
It's a nice day's work. Congratulations. Good job.
It is. Right, thank you. Thank you.
All right, we'll catch you later.
Russell. All right, we'll catch you later.
All right.
Bye.
Okay, guys, the chart I have up right now is the S&P 500 Emini Futures. And if you cannot see that chart, you simply need to do one of 2 things. Go to our homepage at cfrn.net. On the right-hand side of the page, click the big microphone, follow the instructions. You'll be registered through the end of the month. Something you have to do first of every month. If you do it now, you'll be good through the end of January, and that means you'll join the show each day with one-click access. You'll see the charts, hear the audio, all that. Now, the other option is to go to youtube.com/CFRN/live. Bookmark that page, and you'll have one-click access every day. Okay? Now, yesterday on the S&P 500, our Concierge Trade Alert was to consider buying 2811. And we walked through it that if this peak made 550 available, but if you were trailing your stop pretty close, you got taken out. So of course you don't get the full 550, you get whatever you get based on where you were trailing your stop. I went on to say that for those who were trailing a little more loosely, this did not take you out. Because you got to remember now, this is how markets work. Leg, retrace, leg, retrace. Okay, so if you're trailing closely, then what you're saying is, okay, on the first retracement, I want the market to take me out. You don't know if that's going to be a 38, is it going to be a 50, is it going to be a 62, is it going to be a 24? I mean, you can, once the pullback is underway, you can do something like that and say, either I'm going to get up here, and because I've more than made my goal for the day, so I'm happy to let the market take me out up here at the 24% retracement, or, I'm hunting bigger game, and so I'm going to keep my stop back here below the 62. If I do that, I'm going to at least get out at break even or better. Okay, now in hindsight, we can see that after the $750 per contract available was reached, we went sideways for 1, 2, 3 hours. These are 30-minute candles. I typed in yesterday, be careful right here, and I'll just go ahead and tell you why. Weekly trading zone, okay? Not last week's weekly trading zones. Weekly zones go out to the partners every Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. I display last week's zones up until Thursday, and then on Thursday typically I will show everyone in the audience what this week's zones were and what the partners had to work with. However, the zones from the previous week often carry quite a bit of weight, and so if on Thursday or Friday you jot those down and take them with you into Sunday night, Monday morning, you might find it helps. So from 2811, we actually ran up by 3:30 Eastern. We had reached 2835. So if we take 35, basically a 25-point run. So $50 a point, call it $1,200 per contract. And then we continued overnight to just ease our way up. And then off of that candle there, as we headed into the London Open, we rolled over and came right back to that same point where I had said, careful. Why? Because it was an important price at an important area. You can see how the market consolidated there. I mean, I might as well tell you, the zone's 26/27. See how it consolidated right there? All right. And then it made this run. It didn't get to the next higher zone, which is still up a little bit higher than this. It rolled over. You can look at it. You can go leg, retrace, or you can go leg, retrace, leg. You know, the paintbrush, the size of the stroke of the paintbrush you use is, of course, up to you. Now, partners do know where that high is overhead. Okay, So what did price do off that London Open? It came right back down to touch that very area that we said, watch out, because this is an area. Did it touch it? Not quite. It came oh so close to 27. The swing low was actually 28.75. And today we put in a new all-time high up at 28.44.75. We'll get into last night's Concierge Trade Alerts in a moment. First, I want to take a look at the markets around the world. We'll start here in the U.S. These are the cash markets, not futures. The Dow currently up 17 points. NASDAQ up 45. Boy, NASDAQ is en fuego. That's over half of 1%. S&P 500 is up 5, and the Russell 2000 is up 1. In the commodity basket, crude oil up almost $1, 83 cents. Now that's 1 1/3%. Trading 64.40 last. Gold also up today, $5.20. Trading 13.3710 last. So in the U.S. now, we're mixed only because of the Dow, which is underwater by 17 points. Contrast that with the NASDAQ, which is positive 45. You got to, now the S&P and the Dow pretty much march to the beat of the same drummer. But the NASDAQ, that's its own little world. Huge, huge day in the Asian markets. The Nikkei closed up 307 points. That's 1.25%. The Shanghai closed up 45 points. That is 1.25%. And the Hang Seng tacked on 537 points. That's over 1.5%. So the color of the day in Asia, a brilliant green. And in the European markets, the FTSE tacked on 16 points. The DAX at the close was up 95. It did hit a new all-time high during trading today. I don't know if that close puts it over the all-time high, but I know that at least in intraday trading, it was hit. The CAC, on the other hand, down almost 7 points. So the mover and shaker, of course, the DAX up 0.75%. So a green day in Asia, a mixed day in Europe, and so far a mixed day in the U.S. markets because of the Dow. Our hearts and prayers go out to the folks and families and all those involved, the high school kids, the teachers, everyone in Kentucky. Another tragedy today. At least 1 dead, 5 injured. I don't know the story behind it or what caused it, but I'm sure you will find it on your local news. So do keep those families in your prayers. Mueller's team, this ongoing witch hunt, interviewed Jeff Sessions, making him the first Trump cabinet member known to be questioned in the Russia probe. Now, I don't know what channel you watch your news on, but have we not put to rest this cooked up story of the Trump-Russia collusion? I mean, shouldn't some prominent Democrats like Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, shouldn't they be being marched off to jail right now? I mean, isn't it blatantly obvious that they not only broke the law, but they looked at every ordinary American like you and I and said, they're idiots, they'll never figure this out. Well, guess what? We figured it out. Now, where does it go from here? God only knows. You know, are they going to drag it into the second year? I guess. I wrote an article the other day which I shared with you about millennials. Okay, these millennials are leading an investment revolution. Who are the millennials? If you're in the age bracket 18 to 34, you're a millennial. Now, the article that I wrote said that millennials were responsible for buying more than 30% of all cryptocurrency that has been bought since cryptocurrency was invented. And that if the trend continues unabated by 2020, 2 years from now, the millennials will own 50% or more of all cryptocurrency ever created. Now, there's a couple of interpretations of the golden rule. We grew up with do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Now on Wall Street, it's a little different. It's he who has the gold makes the rules. That's the golden rule. So possibly in the next 2 to 3 years, we see a shift in the balance of power. If that golden rule is true, that he who has the gold makes the rules, it could be that we're going to pass the baton to a younger generation at a much earlier age than has ever happened before, certainly in the history of America, and or possibly in the history of the world. But it's not just cryptocurrencies that they're buying and investing in. These smart, savvy, college-educated kids, many still living at home in mom's basement, are investing everywhere. So keep your eye on it, track it, it's coming. TD Ameritrade announced yesterday, that the first quarter of the fiscal year 2018 was a strong one. And guess what it had partially to do with, in part, stocks related to blockchain. In announcing their results, the investment services firm said that they added $26.5 billion in new client assets, with net revenues of $1.3 billion during the period, driven primarily by assets. In statements, TD Ameritrade CEO Tim Hockey said that the company saw significant trading volumes during the quarter, an average of 726,000 per day, and that this state of affairs was driven in part by interest among investors in stocks tied to blockchain and cannabis. We started on a cannabis journey a year ago and got sidetracked. It is going to be big. Don't base the cannabis industry on the TV show Disjointed, which the first season was kind of funny, and then I read reviews of the second season and everybody hated it, and I'm like, wow, I wonder why everybody hates it all of a sudden. Watched part of one episode of the second season, and it's still in the same little dispensary with the same cast, but now everybody's got this really incredibly foul mouth. I mean, every other word. I mean, so lost interest. Just not interesting. Tim Hockey, the CEO at TD Ameritrade, went on to say trading was at record levels. Investor engagement has continued across all client segments as trading the market, or as the market itself reaches new highs. Enhanced consumer interest in blockchain and cannabis-related securities drove a further surge in engagement in the final weeks of the quarter. Now, hear this, particularly among first-time investors. First-time investors buying blockchain stocks and cannabis. Is that good or bad? Right or wrong? Let me hear from you. What are your thoughts? Karen just shared this with us from the audience. So tired of the Trump-Russia collusion story. After exhaustive investigations over the last year, they have nothing. She said nothing Zip. Zero. Nada. Yet. If there was, they would have found it. It's disgusting. It really is. It's an embarrassment to this country and to this nation. You know, pretty soon we won't have an immigration problem because we'll be so screwed up here, nobody will want to come. And despite everything that's been done to thwart Trump in the first year of his presidency, well, the market's at all-time highs for better or worse, okay? This meteoric rise, I'm not saying it's, well, yeah, it's great. Because I know a lot of people with 401ks and retirement plans, got big old smiles. Please don't forget that you give a dance, you got to pay the band, okay? And that day's coming. This was natural gas we looked at yesterday. Oh, remember I drew this little block here because that's where I thought you would find safe passage if you wanted to be long natural gas. Love it when that happens. Oh, let me check for John, see if he's in the house. He is already. Hey, John, welcome to the show. Thanks for popping in early. How are you?
My pleasure. Thanks very much for the invite. And thank you for mentioning natural gas, which I think it's fair to say we absolutely nailed this one from about the 264 level right up to where it is right now. And I think I said yesterday I thought it was going to explode to the upside, which it has done.
There it is. That's a daily candle right there.
And you know what? There's an upside breakout coming on this thing now. And look, you kind of double the range. It sort of takes us up to about $4 now. So you know, if you measure the from the bottom of this to the top, you're going to get
all the way down here.
Yeah, you're going to get a range extension. Potentially, you know, because you're hitting new contract highs and all kinds of things going on right now. And generally speaking, when you hit new contract highs, you generally get a range. It doubles the range, you know, from where it came from. And if you don't believe me, go back and look at lumber, for example. A few other situations that this happened to recently. So there you go.
That pushes, you're right, that pushes us up to about $4.30.
Right. And look, I got to tell you, boy, you know, one of these days, I mean, the dollar broke down, you know, for what it's worth. We had a sell order on the dollar at about 350, We said to go back long the currencies if that happened, and the British pound just hit 140 today. Remember, you and I put out a buy on this at 125 quite a while back. I actually got in right down near the one, even below 120. I think it went briefly at 119. So we've been long the British pound the whole way up virtually, and in and out a few times, but generally, you know, maintaining a long bias. Pound's probably going to go back to 150, 160 now. Where
now,
it was.
What's pushing the pound higher? A weaker dollar, or?
Well, it's funny. Look, you know, there were a lot of fears about the UK leaving the Brexit, you know, leaving the European community because, first of all, initially they were going to have to pay some ridiculous amount of money, like 120 billion, just to leave, which was insane. And that's gotten whittled down to, I think it's somewhere between 20 and 50 billion. It might be even somewhere in that range. They might even get away with it without anything. You know, it's becoming quite. Look, there's a risk of the London banks moving. You know, Macron is trying to woo them to Paris. The Irish are trying to get them to come to Dublin. There's already a lot of banks in Dublin. You know, but taking the banks out of the city, I think, is a long shot. And Britain is becoming, you know, I mean, if they adopt that idea about, you know, if they follow the same theme that Trump is doing, where they drop taxes down to 20% corporate and maybe create a kind of a tax haven in the UK, it could suck a huge amount of money out of Europe and be very beneficial to England. So remember, there's Norway, Liechtenstein, and some other country that sits, maybe Switzerland, that sits on the perimeter of Europe, that enjoy, pretty much full trading relationships without the baggage of being in Europe. So if Britain slots into that same kind of relationship, it could be very beneficial. So the fear and loathing of the Brexit has gradually eroded, and the pound has gotten stronger and stronger. And remember when the pound dropped down to 120, it created a kind of a boom in England. Stock market went to an all-time high because of the lower valuation, and gradually the pound is now recovering because politically there were a few mistakes made here and there that are being forgotten about now. So more confidence is returning to the pound, and Britain is like the US. Both countries are practically hitting close to all-time lows in unemployment. On a pro-rata basis, Britain's low unemployment is, look, it's about three quarters of a million, or 700,000. But when you measure the population on a population adjusted basis, it's about at all-time record lows right now. So things are going gangbusters over in the UK, and the pound is benefiting from it. The dollar is, look, the lower the dollar goes, the better it is for the US. It's going to get the same benefits. More and more people are going to come back to the US. The problem with with the last 8 years, where the dollar was strong, is that we had disinflation, which has really been an enemy of growth in the US. That's why so many people haven't enjoyed wage rises. Everything's gotten more expensive, but the wages have stayed the same, so people are stretched to the limit, which is why Trump was brought in, was elected. So all the things that Trump's doing are helping, to right the ship, if you like. And
yeah,
this is
if he just
case.
wasn't a racist, a sexist, and I don't know, an idiot,
Yeah.
I mean,
no.
We're all so tired of hearing this rhetoric. It just goes on.
Well,
it's like Chinese water torture.
It's all going to backfire because
no offense
the whole
to anyone
plot,
who's Chinese.
the whole plot is unraveling, and there's three things I'm going to bring up here in a minute that prove that this whole thing has been is a dastardly plot. It's almost like 9/11. There's been a bunch of people, including right up to Obama, who's up to his neck in it. Hillary, the whole way down, they all conspired to put this Russia nonsense out. There's a news just broke this morning. Here it is. Here's the headline. Well, first of all, everybody should. I'm going to send this to you later, and maybe you can put it out to people.
Sure.
This guy called. His name is Joe DeGeneva. He's a former special counsel who went after the Teamsters, and former New York Governor Eliot Spitzer. Paints a very clear picture of collusion. It's painted between the Obama administration, the FBI, the Clinton campaign, and opposition research firm Fusion GPS. Now, believe it or not, this is kind of what Carter Worth predicted 7 months ago. And it's finally, and he basically said it's all going to come out. It's the lid's going to get blown off this, and the lid is actually starting to get blown off it right now. It's happening in real time. Here's the next. So there's a 30-minute video, and if you want to listen to this video, it really connects all the dots, and that's what they haven't been able to do up till now. And obviously, these, release the memo. This memo also connects all the dots. And here's the latest two headlines. The FBI agents discussed secret society within DOJ and FBI working to undermine Trump. Can you believe this? You remember the movie Star Chamber? Did you ever see that?
It doesn't ring a bell.
Okay, it's about about a sort of secret society where the cops and judges met, and instead of convicting people in the normal, legal system, they had a kind of underground force that took them out, just eliminated them.
Right.
And this is kind of like a star chamber. I mean, it's not only, it's like a star chamber that's 10 to 100 times more sinister and treasonous, basically. And and then this latest headline today, jaw-dropping text message by FBI agent suggests no Trump collusion with Russia. And it never was. It was all a lie. It's the biggest lie perpetrated on the American people in the history of the world. And we've had to suffer this garbage for 2 years. It's an absolute disgrace.
So what is Hillary and what are Hillary
and you know what, this whole
look today?
the whole thing is, look, there's so much rottenness up at the higher levels, is including the appointment of Mueller, that this whole thing could be thrown out, just like a case gets thrown out of court. I mean, it could actually disintegrate.
Well,
overnight,
Mueller's
because how
grilling
can
Sessions today, the first cabinet member that's been called to testify.
Well, because he's probably, desperate to try and, he's probably getting desperate, because he knows that he's the fall guy ultimately. So, but very, very possibly that all this could be thrown out. I mean, look, the Republicans who've got the power, I mean, how they went along with this, it's really a disgrace. They should have put their feet down months ago and said, we're not going to do any of this. We're not into this, House investigations or Senate investigation. We're not going to be part of it. It's a lot of hogwash. Finally, that's coming true. And and these guys like Schiff and that other guy on the Senate side, I mean, God Almighty, it's pits of the world. These guys, it's just terrible.
Well, one of the things that Trump had promised as he was campaigning is that his first day in office after the inauguration, he was going to have Hillary arrested. And while many of us think that would have been the proper thing to do, allowing it to play out this way, instead of him just locking her up and trying to prove her guilty, it's just come out in the open how guilty they really are.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
And what does she do now on a day-to-day basis, and what is Barack doing on a day-to-day basis?
Well, they're part of the resistance. They're probably working behind the scenes to
I don't see them in the headlines. I mean, are they on the
other
news channels?
They're definitely they're undercover. I mean,
Okay.
this is all part of the plan.
Right.
It's just sickening. It's diabolical. It's really, really bad. And I think at the end of the day, Trump comes out in like a knight in shining armor, and maybe his popularity could soar under these circumstances. People finally start realizing. I mean, the last night on one of these on Hannity, I think it was, this gal, she's kind of cute, this Tommy gal that goes into the streets in Los Angeles, where it's supposedly the bluest area you can find, and there's a lot of people saying Trump's doing a phenomenal job. There were a few dissenters, but more and more people are pretty happy with the way things are. I mean, the 69% of the people think the the economy is going great now. That's a fantastic swing from just a few months ago. And I don't think it's over yet. I mean, look, it's almost inevitable this market's going to go parabolic. The new, when you get news like that Netflix last night, increases its members by 6 million or something in a quarter.
8.3.
Right.
You got to understand though, here's where it's gonna hit a wall. It can't sustain that kind of growth because there's only there's only so many people in the world.
Well, it's
and
like
unlike
Apple,
an iPhone,
I mean, unlike an
iPhone where you go buy a new one. With Netflix, well, I guess with Netflix you pay every month, so and they just raised the price, I think, to $12.99. We first started getting it when it was like $9. In fact, we go way back to when they would send you the disc in the mail. You would watch the DVD, and then we went to the streaming. And you remember the hiccup when they changed the pricing at one point, and the stock
just one
fell
second.
through the
Just
floor?
one second.
Yeah, go
I have to
ahead.
get.
How many of you guys are Netflix people? Probably everybody. Probably be easier to say who's not the next Netflix person. Oh, let's see. Bob says the difference between This may all be true, but what about the stuff like I got a bigger red button and all those weird treats? Oh, you ever heard of humor, Bob? I know you have, because you're quite a funny guy when you want to be. Jim says the difference between genius and stupidity is genius has its limits, but stupidity has no limits. In answer to your question on the Russian probe, if the Democrats really wanted to do what is right, well, then he goes on to say a few things, choice things, and that everyone else would get a good laugh. Well, you know, we wish them no harm, but we wish they would get with the program of trying to make America great again. Go ahead, John.
So, well, you know, Facebook, remember it got clipped for $10 the other day. It's already back to the highs. It's a tremendous recovery power, and Celgene that just made this acquisition yesterday is up very big, which is unusual. You know, when usually you go down when you make an acquisition. The fact that this stock is going up is fairly bullish. And the LEBU now is 102. The FAS, which represents the banking stocks, is just continues to make new highs. It's very, very bullish. The stocks, semiconductors, the techs, just the market is just unbelievably bullish. I actually think it's going to go to about 27. I kind of had a thought about this. I think we'll get to 27, possibly as high as 27.7. That's kind of my target now, 27,700, somewhere up around there. I think we could get into trouble up at that level. You know, we might have a couple of, you know, sell-offs ahead of that, but I think that's kind of my. I don't know whether that's going to be my target by March, you know, by March, April, or whether it'll be later on in the year. But we could get there as soon as March, April, the way we're going right now. But that's a definite achievable target, I think. And then we could have some fireworks after that. You know, we could have a pretty serious downturn. So, but I think that's, you know, it's right in the middle of my range. Well, a little bit on the lower end from the 26 to 32, but it's about, I guess, a third of the way up in the range. Now, you know, think about it. We actually had a pullback from there and then sort of got going again. We could potentially go up to 30, you know, down the road. So, I mean, you know, if you were in outer space for a year and you just came back and you didn't get any news from Earth, I mean, you know, the last, you know, like when you took off, you were about 17,000 on the Dow, and you come back and we're at 26. It'd be kind of a double take, you know. You sort of saying, how did that happen? So, especially if you remember, I mean, there were a lot of people right before the election who were vehemently, including some pretty supposedly smart people on Wall Street, were saying, you know, that the Dow was going to crash with Trump. It was going to be down 50%, all this sort of nonsense. So I think even Richard Branson said something like that. So, you know, it just shows you. You know, figuring out the stock market is not, it's a very tough business. And I think we can pat ourselves on the back that we've done a pretty good job on this show. You know, seeing this ahead of time, you know, we were one of the first out there. We were mega bullish on Trump. People should remember it. We got it right.
Yeah.
We got it right.
Do you think we continue this upward trajectory through the end of the year? Is that what you foresee?
Well, look. Today, as I said yesterday, I think there's going to be a correction towards the end of the week, and I think it's actually starting right about now. It feels that we're running into a bit of trouble here. The Dow is already down. And the S&P is starting to go negative here shortly. And the VIXs are up. And what makes me think that, because you probably asked me why did I say this yesterday, well, I could see that the VIX was shaping up for what I would call a dynamic. It's kind of poised for a dynamic upside move. To what extent, I don't know. But it's I wouldn't, usually when you see a setup like this, you're in for a pretty big surprise. And actually, I think that's happening right now. The Nasdaq's starting to slip away here as well. What I said is to just before I basically said to sell noon lows. So anything past noon today was a sell. If you're lower than where you are at noon, we're short. And several things are, so we're already short the Dow. We're about to go short the mid cap. We're short. I think we're short the Nasdaq right now. Yeah, we are. Yeah. So that's. I'm happy to give it a go, see where it goes. So, and we're actually out of almost all the fangs here, which are starting to break down now over the last hour. So we'll see how far that goes. Now, it might change my mind in an hour or two, or if we start turning up again. But I think we could be headed for a sell-off this afternoon. And we saw this movie before. The last time Netflix came out, it actually sold off quicker than what it's doing today. But we actually sold it yesterday afternoon at about 256 or 255. And it's down to 250. It's not down a lot yet, but we sold a couple of dollars off the high, so that's not a bad trade. Now Netflix could still turn higher before the day's out, because sometimes they usually do in the afternoon. But we've had a pretty hectic run here in the last couple of days. So if we do falter today, it just might, the trends are changing on all these things right now. So, for example, Gilead, yeah, it's kind of actually down on the day already. There's quite a few stocks that are just sort of turning lower. So, if we were to break from here, it could accelerate, and it could just come out of nowhere, just kind of like we did a few days, before this last rally. We had a sell off, down couple of hundred points on the Dow. That something like that could be on the cards later this week. And if any of these tech companies miss here in the next couple of days, that could be enough to pitch the market lower. Because another thing, look, if you're in Facebook or Google or one of these companies that hasn't reported yet, and you just saw Netflix selling off from the high, you might say to yourself, am I going to risk a miss? Because if one of these big companies misses and suddenly opens down $10 or $20 or $50 or $100 in the case of the Google or Amazon, you just lost everything from the last 3 months. So I think there's a few people who are probably saying, I think I'll take some off the table here.
Yeah. But that doesn't throw us into a correction, does it?
It could do. This, another thing is that there's this volcanic activity, earthquakes and things suddenly started happening here. I think isn't there another moon coming up here at the end of this month? Super moon or a blue moon or something?
Oh, wait a minute. This is the one. It's the super moon. It's a blood moon. It's a lunar eclipse. There's like 4 different lunar events all happening in one night at the same time.
These things, they put a lot of stress. When all the planets and things are lined up,
let me
put a lot of stress on the Earth. And that may be behind some of this activity, like this tsunami warning and things like that. There was another earthquake in Indonesia last night as well.
Okay, let me... it's a triple treat. Okay. All right, we'll have to go with the triple treat. I thought it was a quadruple. All right, Sky Watchers, we get a rare triple treat, January 31st, a super moon, a blue moon, and a total lunar eclipse. How rare is the event? Even without the super moon, it's the first blue moon total lunar eclipse in the U.S. since March of 1866, less than a year after the Civil War ended. A blue moon, which occurs about every 2.5 years, is another term for the second full moon in a single calendar month.
This
January's first full moon.
It's vegetables, served cold.
Hang on.
If you want to be fancy, call it gazpacho.
Hang on.
V8. The V is...
There we go. That's finally... guys, when you hit a tab on your Chrome browser, if an ad starts playing, if you go up to the tab itself, there should be a little speaker. If you right-click, you can choose to mute it. Now, that feature's been available for a long time, but this is the first time it's actually worked on my browser. Okay, a blue moon, which occurs about every 2.5 years, is another term for the second full moon in a month. January's first full moon occurred January 1st. Though the exact moment of this full moon is 8:37 a.m. 8:37 a.m. Eastern, January 31st, the moon will appear plenty full for a day or two before and after that. However, the moon doesn't actually appear blue. As for the total lunar eclipse, it will be visible early in the morning of January 31st from western North America across the Pacific to eastern Asia. In the United States, the best view of the eclipse will be along the west coast. For skywatchers in the central and eastern U.S., only a partial eclipse will be visible. So whether you see it or don't see it, it's happening. And does it have an effect on these markets? Without getting into any kind of astrology, I'm talking about astronomy, which is science. Yes, we can tie direct correlations between... Now, that's not our trading strategy. It's not how we trade the markets. But when there's something like that happening, it's nice to be aware of it. Okay? Doesn't have to be part of your trading strategy. Just be aware of what's going on. So, go ahead.
Yeah. The other reason why I'm kind of watching the markets very carefully here is that the gold and silver, last night they tried to break the gold and silver for several days now, and they don't seem to be having much success. They did get the platinum down under 1,000 briefly yesterday overnight. It's back up again today. The gold the same. It's back up again. We put out an alert yesterday saying we expect extreme, and I mean extreme, upside move in gold and silver any time from now on, and imminently. And the silver's down a little bit. It sort of went down a bit more than I thought it might last night. We put a buyout right near the lows, both on the gold and the silver. And it's if the silver, I think the next time the silver goes over 17, it's probably over for good. And you remember Bill Murphy, who was on with us a long time ago? Yeah. Mm-hmm. From the Metropole. He gave a speech at the Vancouver Gold Summit yesterday or the day before, and he basically said, which is what I've been saying on this show, if we get to 21 on the silver, it's over. I mean, it's gone. It's on its way to 100, and I totally agree with him. We're gonna be in for a move to end all moves in the silver, and I think we're gonna, in this next cycle, we're probably gonna end up at least to $135 silver, and potentially sort of 3,000 gold at least. This is in the first stage of the up move. Beyond that, we could go even much higher, but I think that's it's not an unreasonable upside expectation given everything that's been going on. So shout out to Bill Murphy. He's still battling, and I think that there's a huge short position in this silver, and it is starting to unravel. There's still, remember, these guys got a lot of power, so they can knock the silver down to some extent when they get the chance. But one of these days, probably on a break of 17, the silver is going to suddenly be 18 before you know it. It'll be a very fast move, and I think this next move coming is going to take people by surprise, and it's probably going to be dollar inspired. You know, I mean, we're heading into the end of the month. We're potentially closing, you know, a down month in the dollar. So a breakdown into February and March is probably going to do it. The bonds are gradually, you know, we said, how long ago did we say, you know, that higher interest rates is like throwing gasoline on the fire? It definitely is. But in the meantime, the bonds are gradually breaking down, and they're down to 149. Our next target's 147, and our next target on the dollar is 87. And a couple of more points in the bonds could be enough to drive gold up towards 1400. So that's and look, the platinum, it's doing a lot of consolidation around the 1000 number. And once it breaks above, say, 1020 again, I think you could see a very fast move, probably up to 1100, as it starts to catch up with gold. And palladium also is looking like it wants to go higher again.
And there's a pretty nice little rally on the bonds that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
The email last night said to consider buying 149.01, and we saw an initial high up around 149.17, a pullback, and then it ran to 149.22. Each tick, guys, is worth $31.25 per tick. However, if you're new to trading, I don't recommend trading bonds. There's other things that just, I don't know, aren't quite as complicated. What are your thoughts on that, John? Do you find bonds more difficult to trade?
No, bonds are very difficult, very difficult to trade. You know, they're kind of a law unto themselves. I mean, sometimes when they're in a good trending market, they're a good trade. But
we've had a lot of $1,000 runs off the Concierge Trade Alerts, but then we have days where it just gets real choppy.
Yeah.
Bruce commented that the NQ is up almost 600 points since January 1.
Yeah, that's huge. Incidentally, as I said yesterday, the composite is up 7455 now. Just hit a short while ago. That's an astonishing number. And as you know, I mean, we've got an 11,000 target on this composite before this move. You know, in this bull market, that's our upside target on the Nasdaq composite. And I think you know, we're probably going to get there.
Okay, hang on a second. Now on the Nasdaq, let me go to the Nasdaq. What's your? Okay, now the Nasdaq you're talking about and the Nasdaq I'm showing are two different animals, right?
It's a COMP. Yeah, because the Nasdaq's about 500 points higher than the current thing you're looking at.
On this charting platform, I don't have the one you're talking about available. At least I don't think. If I do, somebody type it in. But this is the one that we look at. And last night, we had said to consider selling 69.20. Important price, important area. And this sucker dropped to 69.1975. One tick got you into a stop out, potentially. And then the upside, we knew there was issues in here, so we kind of wanted to stay away from it. Well, we ended up, you know, today's gains in the NASDAQ, certainly not what we saw yesterday. And keep in mind, these numbers here from yesterday were early numbers. The market continued higher right on up to the close. By the time it closed, it had reached 69.33. And yesterday, the buy was at 68.60.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's been... now, on this NASDAQ, this version, not the comp, which, do you have an upside target here?
Well, that'll probably get to 10,000, that one. Probably probably a little bit about 10,000.
That'll be double the price of the real estate crash. Correct? Oh, no, that would be the tech crash. It would be the high of, wasn't the NASDAQ trading 5,000 something?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it'd be double. Yeah, that's a good number. I didn't think of that. Yeah. So it would be double that. Yeah. That's, you know, in other words, we go to 10,000, say call it maybe 10,500 on this and probably 11,300, 400 on the Nasdaq Composite. That's kind of the numbers I'm looking for.
Okay.
So in other words, if this index is about 500, 600, no, 500 or so below the other one right now, right? By the time we get up to 10, it would expand to about 800, 900, something like that. So it'd be about right. 10,500 and say 11,300 on the Nasdaq Composite.
Well, there's a new coin out, the banana coin. Kind of like Venezuela's oil-backed crypto. This one is backed by, you guessed it, bananas. All right, let us take a look at this crypto chart here for just a second. Over the weekend, it ran up to, Bitcoin ran to what, 13,000? Broke through 13,000. Now it's back on its heels again.
Where is it now?
I'm bringing it up. Yeah, we got a green candle building. We're at 11,250.
Yeah, I basically said it had to hold at 10,000 last night.
See this higher low that we got right here. I mean, from here, this was a lower low. Now we got a higher low. If we can build on that, again, we got to take this. We got to take this out. Yeah. There's a lot of work to go on the upside.
It's looking better. It's looking better today for that. And there was a positive report about another Bitcoin derivative coming out. So
I'm so tired of these people that flip flop. If it's rising, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and if it's falling, the same guy. They're talking out of the way Kramer does every day.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. It's either the greatest thing since sliced bread, or it's Satan's spawn, and it could be the same thing on both days to the same newscaster. Just depends upon, is it red or green? Trying to be right, trying to be right.
Yeah,
forget about trying to be right.
Yeah, there's two good reports out today. Japan's largest Bitcoin exchange launches in Europe, and Nasdaq exploring total return Bitcoin futures contract.
Well, Japan's largest bank. Japan's largest bank is opening its own crypto exchange.
Right. So, it could. It actually it's looking like it could hold it right in here at the 10, and that would be good. If it didn't break the 10 again, that would be a big deal.
Do you think anything bad will come out of this grilling of Jeff Sessions? Will he hold up under pressure?
I think so. I think I think he'll be all right.
Now, he's the first cabinet member to be questioned. Who do you think might be next if they allow this circus to continue?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think there's anybody else really as a target in the cabinet.
That's good.
Oh, another thing is, look, here's the thing I forgot to mention. As part of this whole unraveling, how can this guy's Strzok, the FBI guy should have been fired by now, how can he interview Flynn, and Flynn has supposedly lied to the FBI when this guy is as crooked as they come? I mean, the whole thing is just a farce. That Flynn thing probably going to get thrown out.
The fact that it's still going on, most of the rank and file FBI agents are out there putting their life on the line every single day to keep you and I safe, right? But it's these people at the top. This is where the corruption lies. Not in the rank and file.
Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's just, that'll never change.
Yep. That's, I don't know how old that saying is, but it's held true throughout history.
And it's really tainted the FBI big time. I mean, there's a lot of people, because it's just the whole system is just falling apart, as a result of this. It's very, very troubling.
I agree. Anything else you want to cover today?
No, listen, thanks very much for the invite, and we'll see where we end up tomorrow. And just for what it's worth, we might go back to a buy on these markets, because right now they're not they don't look like they want to break down much. So
well, you know, in the second half hour this morning of Wall Street, it looked like the market definitely, actually, towards the end of the first half hour, it looked like we were going to roll over, but the buyers stepped in and pulled it up, pulled it out.
Yeah.
Okay, John. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks
Bye.
very much. Mike says that the grilling took place last week. They just reported it today. Ah, okay. Thanks for that, Mike. I did not know that. Okay, so we've walked through all the markets, the S&P. If you didn't get a chance to grab a screenshot of last night's Concierge Trade Alerts, then you can do so right now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. S&P, we were looking to buy 2840, $100 per contract available, $225 per contract available. On the short side, we were looking to sell 2833. That made $225 per contract available. Nothing like what we saw yesterday, but I just got to tell you, up in this area, we're pretty cautious. Pretty cautious. And again, before the close yesterday, S&P really poured on the fuel. And that's where yesterday's session closed out. And then this was last night. Okay. That's the S&P. Double top. I don't know, slightly higher high. Does it create a platform to build an additional leg up? We'll see. Last night on the Dow, the email said to consider buying 26,245. Had a 70-point run up. Sell 26,180. There was a 32-point move at a 40-point move. You never get out at the swing high or swing low if you use our methodology, because you trail a stop, and if you trail a stop, you'll always leave a little something on the tape. Russell, we said to consider selling 1604. It was good for 150 per contract and then 200 per contract. We also said to consider buying the Russell at 1609, good for 190 per contract, and it just broke through that trigger again, tacking on $100. So not a big move, but a move nonetheless. The NASDAQ figures, sell 69.20, buy 69.65. The swing low was one tick below the trigger. So could that have led to a stop out? Absolutely. Certainly could. But if your stop was way up here, you probably wouldn't take the trade, would you? Huh. Same thing here to the long side. It's 13.75 available at $28 per point. But the structure on a 30-minute chart says there's too much risk in the trade. On gold, we said consider buying 1335 in the email. First run up 270, second run up 380, third run up 390, and no trigger on the short side. In 30-year Treasury bonds, we had a 16-point run up at 31.25 per tick per contract available, and a pullback, and a move, and a pullback, and a move higher. But if you were trailing your stop and saw this big doji, I'm going to think you said, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. And you were gone. Soybeans, we said to consider selling 979. Didn't quite make it. And we were interested in buying at 989. And the high of this candle was 88.75. Saved by a tick. We see that happen a lot. So when I say these are important prices, important areas, they really are. Okay. Now, if you look at the daily chart on gold, we got below this trend line, and now we're bumping our head up. Does this turn into a Trader Vic, or do we bust back through? Time will tell. Here's the S&P on a daily I mean, the shallowest retracement. Did I drag that backwards? Let's do it again. The shallowest retracement. 2740 to 2750. And see, a pullback all the way to here would send the world into a tizzy, but that would just mean that now we actually have the ability to go and put in a new high. This thing will run out of energy if it doesn't get some kind of substantial pullback. How do I know? Because that's how markets work. Can you look at the gold 4 hour? Sure. Chopping around in between these. Is that kind of what you're referring to? Line on the top. She's talking about drawing a line from here across here. Are you talking about connecting this and this? January 2nd. January 2nd. Oh, so you want to draw lines from there. Okay. All right. Create a duplicate line at exactly the same angle. Grab it and drag it. And that's what he's talking about right there. I see it. Channel it is. Say I to the channel. All right. Let us make our way over to the good word for the day. Notes. Where are my notes? Okay, now we all know this is true, whether we want to admit it or not, but we have a tendency to judge people. Hang on one second. We judge people based on how they look, how they talk, what kind of car they drive. The Bible encourages us to not label people, but instead to love them. 2 Corinthians 5:16. We have stopped evaluating others from a human point of view. In other words, see them with God's eyes. If you tend to associate only with your own kind, think about this. We have stopped evaluating others from a human point of view. Jesus went out of his way to meet a Samaritan woman at a well. From a cultural and religious point of view, not a smooth move. First, she'd been married 5 times, so she had a tarnished reputation. Second, Well, the truth was she had been with 5 men, lived with them, possibly not married. Second, she was a Gentile, and in those days a Jew couldn't drink water drawn by Gentiles or eat their food. Jewish physicians could not attend to non-Jewish patients. Jews actually referred to Gentiles as unclean, believing that by mixing with them they too would become unclean. But Jesus was all about including people, not excluding them. In John 1:14, the Word became human and made his home among us. Matthew 11:9, Jesus touched lepers. He loved foreigners. He spent so much time with partygoers that religious leaders called him a glutton and a drunk. 2 things we have no evidence of. Kind of like the Democrats. Anyway, Jesus didn't label people. He loved them. And when you follow him, he puts his finger on your prejudices and makes you deal with them. That's because he wants to change the way you look at people, not seeing them as Jews or Gentiles, insiders or outsiders, liberals or conservatives. We have stopped evaluating others from a human point of view. Now that sounds simple, but I promise you it's not easy. It's sort of built into us. It was modeled as we were growing up. We would hear our parents, at least I did growing up in the Deep South, I would hear my parents and grandparents talk about how unprejudiced they were with their lips, but then with their actions I would see just how prejudiced they really were. And it was so deep-seated, I'm not even sure they were aware of it. They actually believed what they said, but their actions told a different story. We have stopped evaluating others from a human point of view. I challenge you for the rest of the day, if you never try it again, for the rest of the day, whoever you come in contact with, whatever preconceived notion or idea you have about that individual, wipe the slate clean and just see the God in them as they see the God in you, and we'll all bow and say namaste. All right? Today you may come across some discarded people, like that woman at the well. They may have been thrown out of church or just turned off by church, but you'll have a chance to label them or to love them. So why don't you do what Jesus did? Honor God and love them. And the more unlovable they are, the greater your reward. That's it for today, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with his mercy and with his grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-host, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.